Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at your ScanXScout extension. But not only the web extension, we're also going to be taking a look at some new indicators and features that are going to be on your site, as well as things that are going to be on the extension itself. So you guys are going to see some new stuff here. So we'll go ahead and start with this Kong Extreme toy. Alright, so first we see our ranking up here. That's your BSR. And then just below on the left, we have our ASIN. You have your little convenient copy button here in case you want to copy and paste that somewhere else for whatever research you might be doing. Then just to the right of this, we have our star. So if you guys want to add this to favorites, then it's as easy as just clicking that and it'll automatically go to favorites. Just to the left here, we have our BSR history. So if you look at the days, we have 30, 90, and 180 days respectively. So you guys can look at what that ranking was for the last month, 3 months, and then 6 months. Just below that, we have our category. In this case, we're looking at a dog toy, so that's obviously going to fall under pet supplies. And then we have the model itself. Below that, you see estimated sales. This is a feature that we got coming soon, so you're going to see the estimated sales monthly, so be on the lookout for that. Just below here, we have an out of stock indicator, and then we also have Amazon presence. So what you're looking at here is the out of stock numbers for 30 days and then 90 days. So this not only shows you the percentage, but also shows you where exactly that applies. So if we look below here, we see Amazon, FBA, and then FBM labeled, and then not just the past month, but also the past 3 months. So you guys can see where exactly that applies. And then as far as Amazon presence, you can see how often Amazon was present for the last month, and then also the last 3 months. One thing that's worth noting is how this concerns you. So for some of you, if Amazon is a seller or if Amazon is on this particular item, it can be a little bit discouraging in a way. You might decide that it's not worth your time because you don't want to compete with Amazon. You're like, Amazon's going to have the buy box. It's not worth my time. I'm going to move on to another item and just forget this. But you guys might actually be missing out on an opportunity. Now, the cool thing about ScanXScout is that it shows you these numbers. You guys aren't just looking at a tool that's going to show you, oh, hey, Amazon's a seller, because you don't know how often it is. Amazon might be constantly a seller. Amazon might be a seller only a specific amount of time out of the month. So by looking at these percentages, you can see, oh, if it's only on there a certain amount of time, only so often, maybe rarely, then that might be your opportunity to jump on that item. Because if someone else is using something that only shows Amazon is a seller, then they don't know how often that is, so they're not gonna bother with it. But if you know how often it is, then you can wait for that window, and when Amazon isn't selling, when Amazon's out of stock or whatever, that's your opportunity to jump in and actually start moving that item, because at that point, you're going to be the only one moving that item. And if someone needs it, someone wants it, and you're the only one selling it, then you guys can do the math and figure out who those sales are going to go to. Further down, we have offers. So looking at FBA, and then off to the right, we have FBM. Those little numbers are just an indicator of how many people you have selling this item as FBA and then as FBM. And then just below that, we see here these numbers. That's just the lowest price in regards to FBA, and then the lowest one in the FBM section. Just below there, we're looking at our sell price. Again, we have FBA and FBM respectively, the buy cost, and then we have our expenses. Now, cool feature here, these expenses are based off of the expenses that we ran prior. So if you guys recognize this page and you remember plugging all of these numbers in, that's what this guy is over here. Now, let's say, for example, you guys didn't want to use those numbers. Maybe those numbers usually apply, but For one instance or another, maybe you're working with something slightly different. And so because of that, those numbers aren't going to be the correct ones. What you can do here is just click this, and we see these go to 0. We also saw the numbers down here change immediately. So all you would do is just click this and then run your own numbers however they are. But if you do want to use your own numbers, it's as simple as just clicking this box over to the right, use saved, it loads, and then all of your profit margin and return on investment load accordingly. Just down here, your daily limit. This is going to be dependent on what sort of subscription you have set up, what sort of plan you guys are using. If it is a number that caps out at a certain digit, then it'll be indicated down here. All right, next, you're going to be looking at a set of symbols. So starting from the left to the right, this first one's probably pretty familiar. You guys probably already guessed what that is. This is Hazmat. So because Amazon has certain rules and regulations in regards to moving Hazmat products, it's important to know whether the item you're moving is Hazmat or not. Now I'm going to show you guys another item right now so you guys can see what that would look like. Here we have a dog spray, and our Hazmat indicator is colored red. So if you guys are considering moving this item by this little symbol being colored red, you know right away, hey, I'm going to have to work under different rules. I'm going to have to take different steps in order to move this item, because it's not as simple as moving, let's say, this dog toy, for example. So continuing off to the right, we have an 18 plus. That's your adult category. So if you guys are considering selling any of those items, again, it's not as simple as some other common items. You're going to need to abide by Amazon's set rules and regulations in regards to that category. Next, we have a little wine glass over here. That's your fragile items. So if you guys are moving, well, obviously maybe something like glass, or if it's a computer monitor or whatever, might be super breakable and need extra packing, extra cushioning, extra safety precautions, things of that nature when you're moving delicate items. You can see right over there, this would be lit up in red. All of these indicators right here would be red, just like the Hazmat guy, if it applied to this particular item. And then just off to the right here, we see that Amazon is not a seller. So we have two indicators really, one or even three. We have the Amazon saying no right here. The Amazon presence right here is 0%. And then if it was on here, this guy would be orange. So let's go back to this guy. That was it. Here we see it's orange here. And then we even have an indicator price. So we'll get to that in a second. Next, this little green check mark shows that you're approved for this category. So this allows you to look at the item right away and know whether it's worth it, because you're not going to want to order an item only to find out, oh, hey, I can't even sell it. Like, what are you going to do with it at that point? So that allows you to know right off the bat that you guys are good to move that item. And then in the Seller Central category, this little green indicator shows that you're good to go as well. By the way, this little arrow right here allows you to minimize or maximize it. So let's say you went to the item and you're just running only off of these indicators. Maybe you're moving super fast. Hazmat, you know you can't do Hazmat, so if this is red, you just move on. You don't even need all of the numbers that would show below. Same with adult category, fragile. Let's say you don't want to deal with Amazon whatsoever. You don't want the competition, even if it's only temporary or half of the month. Then if this is orange, you move on, so on and so forth. Especially if this thing isn't green, rather than a green check mark, it's not going to be gray like these other guys. If you're not allowed to sell this item, if you're not allowed to sell in this particular category, in place of a green check mark, what you guys are actually going to see is the restriction symbol. So it's going to be that familiar circle with a diagonal line going through it, and it's going to be red just like the Hazmat guy was. So it's going to be very obvious that there's something up with this item. Next, you have your items UPC. Again, for convenience purposes, if you guys want to copy and paste it somewhere else, you have your little copy button. Right below here, you have the box to enter an alternative UPC. So maybe there's some sort of a case UPC that has a different code than the individual items UPC. This is maybe one area that you would set that up. Further, you have your size, not just the dimensions, but you also have the volume. So that way you can run your calculations and estimate your costs based off of the volume. You have the weight itself. The size tier, in this case, we're looking at large standard. And then another important cool thing right here is the pack size. Now, this is one little feature here that's really going to make sure you guys are working with accurate figures, and I'm going to show you why right now. So if we look at this item here, we see just the one toy, but if we look at the labeling itself, it says 2-pack. For the example, I'm going to go back to the site and I'm going to show you again. We only have the one picture here, so we're only looking at one of the toys, but it says 2-pack. And then similar to the exclamation mark that we had in the extension, if you think of that, if you look at the exclamation mark here, this little indicator kind of says like, "Hey, slow down. There's something up with this item." So if we look over here, the program is still regarding it as single, which means that when information was loaded, maybe we weren't labeling columns as far as case and then single. Maybe the way the lists were set up was a little bit different, or you just didn't have that column. So here's the opportunity for you to catch it. So in the other video, I showed you guys how to change this so that you click here and you go from single to set, and then you indicate the number. You guys also have that available to you in the extension itself. So if we scroll over here, we see it changes to the little hand. And if we open it up, right here, we can modify this. So we're going to go ahead and eliminate the 1, plug in the 2. Now, next little bit, once we've plugged that in, our numbers will change according to what you set. But that's only temporary if you leave it like that. So in order to make this a permanent change, let's say you notice like you're not just toying around with it just to see, oh, what if it were a pack of 2? Or what if it were a pack of 3 or 4? Like in this instance, it is actually a pack of 2. So we want to make this permanent change. We would go over to this little button right here, left click it, and we see right here saved. So now this change is permanent. It is now regarding it as a pack of 2. Now, if we go to our site, we see right here at the bottom right, update available. Click update. Now, remember this said single before. Now what we're looking at is a set of 2. So the cool thing is, because your extension is linked to your site and all of the numbers and statistics that show up on the extension come from the site and your information loaded, these two are communicating in such a way that when you update it here, it shows up here, and vice versa. If you guys happen to update it right here on the site, then you would see it right here as well. So whichever one you're working on, you can just go ahead and move, make your corrections, and then keep going from there. Just below here, you have your buy box price. And then for obvious reasons, the Amazon price, the same one. So there's an indicator of what Amazon's running it for. It's also a way for you to just glance down, and let's say you didn't look at this and you just kind of, your eyes landed on this, then you can see right away Amazon's a seller. So it's just one of a few indicators available to you. Then down here we have our sheets. So let's say we want to add it to a sheet, for example. Just hit your drop down menu and we can select a sheet. Let's say Kong, for example. Add to sheet. We have a little confirmation notice up at the top, and it's that simple. Let's say we want to add it to another sheet that doesn't exist yet. Maybe we're creating ones as we move. Then we could create ABC, for example. Hit OK. And now if we go back up here, boom, we immediately have ABC available as an option, and then add to sheet, and you move on. This other drop down menu is related to your suppliers. So if we click that, we can see what those options are. However you guys labeled them, however it's set up, you'll see it available. And then if we move on a little bit below down here, these are you guys' Keepa charts. So you guys are pretty familiar with the Keepa charts. Some of you have probably been using this for a while. So we took the liberty of providing this for you so that in addition to the numbers, if you're more of a visual person as well and you're into charts and graphs, and that's how you make your calculations in your head, or that's how you run things quickly, you have this available to you right here. In addition to that, as before you had your regular time frames, you guys also have an extended time available to you. So right now, the bold 30 is indicating that we're looking at the month. If we click the 7, it goes down to the week, but you guys can also analyze up to a year. So look at all this data that you have available for you for this particular item. So what this allows you guys to do is not just look at what you were before, but now you're better set up to play the long game, because you're not just looking at a maximum of 6 months, you're looking at twice that much now. So now you can actually make better estimates based off of a longer history of performance. And then we have a lot of lines right here. For some of you, it may be a little bit too crowded. The space might be a little bit too loud. In the event that you don't want to have all of that, it's as simple as just clicking one of them. So FBM we might eliminate, buy box we might eliminate, and then let's say Amazon, for example. So now if you notice, all those disappeared, and now you're just looking at your BSR. And then if you guys want to bring it back, it's as simple as just clicking that again. And then for the purpose of splitting it, let's say you want to look at both at the same time, then you can also look at this guy down here, and the same functions are going to be available to you. Now, if we move up here, your little I button, that's going to be an indicator of the Amazon fee breakdown. So if we look at these numbers right here, profit, for example, if you notice, we're looking at different numbers. So your profit on one is $24.77, and then your profit on the other is $29.77. So one tool that you have available to you to help you understand those numbers a little bit better is this little guy right here. So you have your expenses and then your FBM referral fee, but you also have different expenses, the FBA related stuff, you have the fulfillment and the storage. And then as we can see here, we're looking at January through September, but we're also looking at October through December. So those times when those fees are going to go up and you're going to be charged more, you can plan around that based off of the indicators right here. All right, now I want to show you guys something else. Now, if we remember when we were loading our supplier list, there were some times where we were putting in a link. Now you guys can see where that's at. So before we might have to scroll over and hit it. Now you guys have an indicator so you can eyeball it right away. So if we wanted to look at this item right here in the Amazon page itself, we could open it. If we wanted to look at it through the link here, it's as simple as just clicking this, and you're going to notice that it takes you right away to this guy right here. Now, if we go to the Amazon listing and we look at the item, you're going to see a little cart right here. Now, you may not have noticed that before. Let's go ahead and look back at our Kong toy. So here we have the supplier title, but there's a blank space right here. So if you guys are looking at an item where that link doesn't apply, you might not know that there's actually something here. If it doesn't apply, it's not here. But in this case, it does apply. And so you have this little bit right here. So if you click this, same thing, same page. So just like when we clicked the link over in our ScanXScout site and it brought us here, if you click the little link inside the ScanXScout extension, same gig. So that allows you guys to actually move through those different pages and actually run that analysis, whether you're on your site, whether you're on your extension, and just streamline that whole process. All right, so today we went over your ScanXScout extension tool, what each of the indicators meant, what the categories were for, how to use them. We also looked over some new features on the site and the extension as well, and then how to make certain corrections so that you make sure that your numbers aren't skewed. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you guys found this useful, please feel free to leave a like. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any ideas or anything that you want to add, feel free to drop a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.